Hi vinyl community, it's Bruce here, back with another posting. I haven't done one for quite some time, must be a few months now. Been busy with life and other things getting in the way, work, etc. And something did come up, so I thought, hey, I better jump right in there. And it was a video posting by TKR Video Central up on YouTube about a month ago, and he's an American chap who's opened this competition to show 10 obscure pieces of music. I think it can be, in many formats. It could be an album, could be a single, could be a CD, etc. I've limited it to just LPs and singles, well, EPs actually, to be technical about it today. And so I've decided to throw my hat into the ring. I don't have that much obscure stuff. It's a bit of fun. Let's see how we fare. Okay, so let's get started. The first record which I'd like to show is actually, I think it's a later reissue here, and it's by a chap called Gary Miller, who is quite obscure, and you can see here it's Aqua Marina on Pi Records by Gary Miller, and it's the theme tune to the children's puppet series Stingray, which was a Jerry Anderson 1960s sci-fi puppet series. Yeah, it was great fun anyway. He's a bit of a crooner, and it's got the Stingray with the bongos going or whatever in the background, theme tune on the B side. Anyway, so that's my first entry. Coming up second is a record which is really quite common. I'm sure people out there have got it, but they may not have this variation. It's actually by the Stranglers, and here it is. I'll put it up there to the screen. You can see. I think there were 75,000 of these free singles given out with the first issue of the Black and White LP by the Stranglers. This one, as you can see, is not on white vinyl. It's actually a beige variation of it. And this was Walk On By. It's an EP that they gave away free, but that's a nice variation. Quite rare, not exceptionally rare, but yeah, I thought it was a nice variation. Moving on to the slightly perhaps more obscure now, there's a delightful record here, another EP, and it's on the it's HMV single. I think it was released, I did a little bit of research on this, in about 1960 or 61, and it's Now We Are Six from the Winnie the Pooh A.A. Milne stories. It's interesting. It's on this lovely label, and if you can see there, it's actually, this one is on, I'll take it out of the sleeve. Yeah, it's the Junior Record Club's recording, and there it is. It's on blue vinyl, and the chap reading the stories is called Dick Bentley. I had to look him up, do a bit of research on him on Wikipedia. I think he was an Australian actor. He did a few films. I think he did something with Robert Mitchum at some point, I believe. Anyway, so there we are. There's Now We Are Six. That's my third entry. Getting a little bit more obscure now is a kind of reggae rock steady single from, I think it's about 1968-69, by Pat Kelly. It's fantastic, this one. If you can see that lovely gas label, and this one is called Workman's Song. Yeah, it's a division of Palmer Records, who released a lot of reggae in the late 60s. This one is actually getting quite tough to find now. Anyway, perhaps the rarest and most interesting of the 7-inches which I've got to show today is the original soundtrack. This has been reissued, I think, in the early noughties, of Christoph Kameda's Cul-de-sac from the Polanski film. Terrific film. I think possibly my favourite Polanski film. It's the one that's off the radar, no one ever talks about. This is the original EP. You can see there it is on Polydor Records. And that is, there was about 500 of these pressed. Obviously people played them. I don't know how many are surviving, but that is an original. It even has in the back there, I've preserved, you can see the original paper inner sleeve. It came within. Let me take that out, then I can show you some scenes from the film there. Yeah, I think it came out in '66, but as I say, very few pressed, no LP, only released on 7-inch, so that's a real obscurity. Okay, let's get on to the 12 inches now. Nothing particularly obscure coming up, but a few things that might raise one or two eyebrows in the vinyl community. The first one is a concert percussion LP. I believe this is a later issue. It's on a red. It's got a nice groove on it there. You can possibly see that. On Time Records. It's an American pressing, kind of avant-garde percussion, as the name suggests. I think you've got people like Henry Cowell, John Cage, etc. It's a gatefold. Let me open that out so you can see it. There we are. So that's an interesting piece anyway. Another record which is quite obscure, which I'll show now, which doesn't come up much on the vinyl community. I've showed it before, I think on my very first posting, and this is Candonblay. It's a Brazilian field recording of what I describe as a sort of voodoo ritual, a ceremony going on. I did open it. I won't open it all today, but there we are. You can see it there. And it's on this Chouard label, XAUA. I don't know how you pronounce that. This came out in about '64 or something. Again, it was quite obscure, but that's an interesting one. Moving on, we have a copy of King Rat. What's so rare about that, you might say? It's John Barry. Soundtrack to a what's his name? I always forget his name. Brian Forbes. Yeah, he directed it. It's sort of Second World War army prison film. I don't know whether I've ever seen it. Probably not the kind of thing that would appeal to me. But anyway, I see it's got George Segal and Tom Courtenay in there, so quite a good cast. This is interesting because if you can see there, it's actually signed. The person I bought it from, name is on there, and it's got the autograph of John Barry on it. So yeah, and a signed copy is always nice to have of John Barry. Next up is an album which is definitely rarer, quite a desirable one. This I actually did a quick currency conversion check on this one. It was released in the year I was born, 1965, and it's by the great Tubby Hayes with Paul Gonsalves from the Duke Ellington Big Band playing tenor sax, along with I think he just plays tenor and maybe he plays flute on here. I can't remember. Tubby Hayes. He certainly doesn't play vibes on this one. I know he did on other albums. He did, but here he's just restricted to tenor duties. This is an original mono, 1965, on Columbia Records. This is becoming quite an obscure album. There we are, I'll put it up there with the label for you to see. Yeah, I did a currency converter on this one. At the time it came out, it's worth about 17 quid, 17, in 1965. As I say, you've got the 16 shillings and 9p. I don't know if you can see that there, penciled price on the rear. Today it sells for nearer sort of £200 or £300, so it is quite a desirable disc. The last one I couldn't even find when I looked on Discogs. This one came up, but I could only see a 1970 reissue. This is the original 1968 version. It's a fascinating kind of field recording thing again, but it's a compilation. It's got all kinds of input. I think it was an educational album called Voices. This is volume 2. I think there were about 5 or 6 different volumes of this. It's on the old Argo label. This is the original. You can see it's got the ovular Argo label as opposed to the rectangular one, which was later pressings. but this one came out, I believe, in 1968, and it features people reading things like poetry by John Clare. There's some gamelan music on here. There's some children's choir stuff on here. Really interesting stuff, quite obscure. Anyway, there we are. That's my 10th. I hope you enjoy that that little glimpse into my, you know, the darker recesses of my vinyl collection. And I'll hope I'll see you all soon. I'm Bruce back again. No sooner had I finished my recording than I realised that the first disc, which I thought of showing in this competition, I completely forgot about. So I'm cheating and putting in an 11th. Anyway, here it is. Mel Henk, La Dolce Henk. It's from about 1964, and it is an amazing album. It's kind of slightly cheesy, easy listening jazz, but it's got people like Mel Blanc, who did the voices for the Bugs Bunny and all the Warner Brothers characters on there. It's on Warner Brothers Records, so it's very fitting that he does some of the voices for this thing. It's very zany, very saucy, as I say. The cover tells you a lot about it. The most interesting thing, which does make it a little bit of an obscurity, is the fact that it is a white label promo. So there we have it, La Dolce Henk, a late 11th hour addition to my 10 obscure albums. Thanks again for watching, everyone. Bye.